In today's passage, we see that apparently rocks can talk. Now, I'll be honest, the only time that I've ever seen talking rocks is in fantasy movies and TV shows. But what Jesus says in today's passage is that even the stones, the rocks, will cry out. They would rejoice over who he is. What's interesting is Jesus apparently has pet rocks that might actually do something other than those pet rocks that everybody had in the 70s. In today's passage, Jesus is, of course, as usual, confounding expectations. As he is entering into Jerusalem, a lot of misunderstanding is happening. The biggest problem in today's passage is that the crowd that is worshiping and excited about Jesus is that they have a case of mistaken identity or misheard prophecies. Perhaps they, like some of us, have read these prophecies and they misunderstand something, like many of us when we hear a popular song and we confuse the lyrics. Maybe you remember a few years ago there was a commercial advertising the app Shazam, where somebody would sing the wrong lyrics that were completely ridiculously wrong, and then as they listened to the lyrics, then they would find out what the actual ones were. This commercial was memorable and funny because it was always ridiculously incorrect lyrics. The crowd in today's passage has incorrect understanding of who Jesus is. They've read the prophecy that the Messiah is coming in Zechariah, and they know that the Messiah will be riding on a donkey. This prophecy is quoted in all four gospel accounts surrounding Palm Sunday. So it is no wonder that the crowds believe that Jesus is going to help them to be the king that he has been called to be, to rule in Jerusalem, and that he will help them lay waste to their enemies, the Romans. They see that Jesus is making fun of the Roman leaders and all the other world leaders who come riding in with all the trappings and excitement and majestic white horses and everything else, and Jesus comes simply on an unridden colt, whether a young horse or a young donkey. And so Jesus is coming in on this humble thing, and it's all the regular people, and it's palm branches, and Jesus is making light of the trappings of the Romans and other world leaders coming in when they proclaim they are the new rulers of the area. And so, of course, the crowd makes the logical jump. Jesus is going to be the king that helps us get rid of those nasty Romans. But as always, Jesus doesn't follow what everyone else thinks he's going to do. Jesus doesn't follow the required or prescribed ritual or words. Jesus is not concerned with fulfilling the prophecy in that timeline or in that particular manner at that point. And we'll see that throughout Holy Week, the week of Holy Week, that will change the crowd's minds about him. But in today's passage, in the passage about Palm Sunday and the beginning of Holy Week, we're to be reminded of humility. It is a down-to-earth humility that is important as we serve. We're reminded that as we read this story, Jesus uses seemingly humble and insignificant things to make his point. Besides the inanimate rocks, the colt is important too. This colt speaks the message that the Messiah has come just because Jesus is riding upon it. You no doubt recall the story of Balaam and his donkey, and that donkey being able to talk to Balaam, convincing Balaam not to come against the Israelites, as we read in the Old Testament accounts. So, a question for us to consider. If God can speak through a donkey or inanimate stones, what is our excuse for not worshiping or preaching about Jesus? Indeed, if rocks without hearts or brains confess Jesus is Lord, why don't we, if indeed we are commanded to? And I believe we are. Paul gives us this command in the book of Romans 10, 9 through 15, saying, "Because if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord, and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. For with the heart one believes and is justified, and with the mouth one confesses and is saved. For the scripture says, everyone who believes in him will not be put to shame. For there is no distinction between Jew and Greek, for the same Lord is Lord of all, bestowing his riches on all who call on him. For everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. How then will they call on him in whom they have not believed? And how are they to believe in him of whom they have never heard? And how are they to hear without someone preaching? And how are they to preach unless they are sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who preach the good news. We must humbly submit to the call that is upon our lives to preach. Even though we may realize that the stones would do the preaching for us, we have that much more capability than stones and donkeys and everything else. We should worship Jesus for who he is and what he has done and continues to do for us, so that those who have not yet believed will soon believe. May we go out, may we share that, knowing that as we go out, that we are protected and that we are called to do so, that we are prized for our willingness to humbly submit to God in preaching the good news of Jesus Christ this day and every day.